What's up, friends? Welcome back to Rooted Wisconsin. Thank you for clicking another episode. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for being you. We appreciate you. Excited to share another story. Today's guest is Rex Meikle, founder of Door Born, a Door County lifestyle and apparel brand. So we talk about that and, of course, a whole lot more. Rex went to UW-Stout to be a tech ed teacher in Wisconsin and did that for a year and ended up realizing that the path wasn't for him. And with the state of recruitment and the difficulty finding K-12 educators in Wisconsin, it's a really relevant conversation to have. And it was great to hear Rex's unique lens of kind of his path in and out of K-12 education in Wisconsin. Well, he was at UW-Stout. He was also a football player and ended up getting a couple concussions that dramatically impacted his life. So we talk about that journey a little bit as well. And the outdoor piece of Door Born is really critical to his mission and his message and really who Rex is. So, of course, we dive into the outdoors too. I'm going to delve into fly fishing this year. I've been a traditional spin fisherman for a long time, and I'm finally going to dive into fly fishing. I've had some buddies that have tried to get me to do it for a long time, so I'm going to do that. Rex has been fly fishing for several years now, so we talk about that. And also super interesting, Rex is a spear fisherman and does that in Lake Michigan and in the Bay of Green Bay. So I was excited to learn about that. Spear fishing is a kind of a cool thing too. So that's what Rex and I chat about. There's a bunch of other stuff in there as well that you won't want to miss. Enjoy another episode. Thanks for being you. And of course, a shout out to our sponsors, Ryan and the team at Riverside Pizzeria. Best pizza in Wisconsin, hands down. And Paul and Amy with Forward Beverage, making NA cool and keeping NA cool in Wisconsin. Non-alcoholic beverages. What do you get at a bar? What do you get at a restaurant? What do you get at your fish fry? It's a Forward Beverage. So thanks to them. Enjoy another episode. Again, thanks for being you.
As the years have passed, so have the ways. We've tried to lift our neighbors. Where did the love go? Where did the talk end? We need some help to make this better again.
Well, I appreciate you coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to learn more. Thanks for the shirt, too.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah. So we had a chance to chat. I can't tell you how many people I've told the story to about the first time we were supposed to meet.
Yep.
I've told it to so many people. I can't remember if this came up in our conversation, but at the beginning of classes, I do mountains and valleys. So the day we were supposed to meet the first time, we're doing mountains and valleys, and where I was supposed to connect with you was just before a class, so it butted up to a class. So of course, I do the thing where I no-show. I felt terrible, and I go to class, and this was my valley. I'm talking about this valley. I'm sending you all those Instagram messages as I'm talking to my class. I'm like, this is the biggest valley of my a long time right now, because I felt so bad. And they were all just pretty much exactly what anybody else would do. Yeah, you messed up, dude. You messed this one up.
No, you're fine. No, I understand too. And I said, I used to teach, and I get crunch time, and you have a little prep, and you're trying to get ready, and things get away from you. And so not the end of the world. Figured it out. And the second time we met in Sturge, it was great. Have a really long conversation then. So, but no microphone. So
yeah,
I have to run it back.
Yeah, I'm excited to build on it, man. You're doing some cool stuff with Door Born, with the apparel, but just working through life, man. And I think that's a lot what we're about here, is just working through how life happens in these meandering, winding paths that people do. And we'll get to all that stuff, but I want to start Door Born. When one of the times you initially reached out to me, I can't remember exactly how you put it, so it's not going to be verbatim, but you kind of just described Door Born, what you were doing, and then you said something along the lines of, I'm just a dude from Door County with a story to tell. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of in a way, that's what you're building with your brand, right? You're trying to tell that story through your brand. Is that a good?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I think it's just kind of I grew up in Door County, and I never really felt like the Door County I saw and felt and was a part of was ever really represented. I felt like when people were coming to visit there, or even people growing up there, like there was nothing that they could wear or, I don't know, see in media or clothing or anything else that was authentic. It all seemed like, you're kind of boxing up something that's sold at a different tourist town somewhere else and reselling it again, or I don't know, just kind of shallow. So I wanted to create a brand that really captured that like fun-loving outdoor type lifestyle of a lot of like West Coast brands, Rocky Mountain brands really capture that. But yeah, that Great Lakes feel, it's just unique, it's beautiful, and the people who are from here know about it. But if you're not from the area, if you're visiting, it's one of a kind, really. So yeah, I thought that it deserved its own, clothing line.
Yeah. How'd you land on apparel or clothing anyway, though? Like, how'd you choose that as a way to tell a story?
Well, and that's true. Like you were saying with the story, really, like the root of it is telling the story, of telling that authentic story. But clothing, I've always liked clothing. I feel like kind of like how music, you can choose different songs you like. They kind of capture a moment or maybe a phase in your life. I think clothing has the same feel there. It's also nostalgic, and you can pass it down. Like people love wearing clothes that maybe their parents wore in college, or maybe like dad's jersey from back in the day. So really, it's cool to have clothing items that are built well, that have great graphics on them, and they're lasting, they're endearing. Having stuff that looks cool now, but it's gonna look cool forever. It kind of has its own place. So I've always been drawn to it. Always liked nice quality clothing, and yeah, like I said, just wanted to create a brand that really captured, what Door County represents, but also really the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. It's just there's a coolness to it, and it's kind of overseen, or pushed aside or simplified,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny hearing you say that. I was talking with just a dude who listens to my podcast, a friend of mine, probably last week sometime, I think. And he asked who I was having on, like my next recording day. And I said that you were coming up and a couple other people. And of course, like in conversation, you try to like describe a little bit about each person, these little like kind of like tidbit about what they do. And hearing you describe it, I think I got it pretty well. So like it was a person like of my age. So it's like older millennial. And I was like, so if I had to describe it right now, knowing the little bit that I do, I would say that Rex is trying to be, or like going for the way of like Billabong was, but for Door County.
Yeah. No, it's an outdoor lifestyle brand, right? Inspired by the Great Lakes, inspired by Door County, but built for people born to be outdoors. People who just love to be outside. They love hiking, fishing, camping, just, being around, being on the beach, chilling out. And yeah, like you said, Billabong, cool Australian surf brand. There's Rip Curl. There's tons of these different lifestyle brands that are great, and they really like capture that type of lifestyle. But there's really nothing for people in the Great Lakes or like Door County or Midwest region that they love doing their different recreational, like some guys surf here, but it's not like we have a huge surfing culture.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people hunt and fish, but that doesn't mean everyone wants to wear camo and blaze orange like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a coolness, there's a sophistication to, the outdoors men and women in our region. And I don't think there's a brand that really captures that. So that's what I'm working towards, having both like gear and just casual clothing that really promotes that outdoor recreation and just fun loving.
Yeah.
So,
and that's more what I meant about the Billabong thing than anything. It's just there's an identity to it.
For sure.
There's an identity connected to what the apparel means. And I think, so I've thought about your brand since we had our first conversation, and I think that gap you've identified so perfectly because, like, you got to know I hunt, I fish, I'm an outdoors person. And sure, there's like Patagonia in the North Face that are like outdoor brands, or LL Bean or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that anybody really connects that. Yeah. Really, like one-to-one, maybe Patagonia a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I think of recreating how we do here in Wisconsin and the upper Midwest in general, you're exactly right, dude. There's nothing that effectively conveys what that brand is in apparel. Like you said, like can wear mossy oak somewhere or something like that, but like that loses all the cool factor for the most part. And it's like, and you know what I'm getting at, but like, I don't know. I think you've identified it perfectly, that there's certainly a space there that you can fill.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, nothing against any other brands. It was just like, as far as like the Midwest goes, or like the Great Lakes region, you know, I feel like Door County is kind of like the epitome. It's like, this is the king of summers, you know, this is like the place to be. And, you know, biased opinion coming from me. But growing up even there, it was like, there's nothing that really captures what's going on here. Like, and it was strange. I mean, I am the guy who's in the creek trying to catch the fish when you're driving by, or one of the people out on a boat, you know, in the summertime, or just like, if you are one of those people who's out there having the fun, like, you can't boil it down to wearing like West Coast skate and surf brands, because that's the closest thing to what you are doing and the lifestyle you have. Like, that's not close enough for me.
It's completely inauthentic.
Yeah. So yeah, it has its own feel, so it
Yeah.
should have its own clothing line too.
What draws you to entrepreneurship, man? What draws you to wanting to pave your own path and do all that? We'll talk about teaching in a little bit, but I want to
Yeah.
know what your current passion is. What draws you to it?
It's hard to describe. Honestly, I think it's kind of like something that's in you. And I grew up, my dad came from like a farming family. So my grandfather farmed, my great-grandfather farmed, and probably all the way back forever. Just having that, like, obviously clothing's a little different than farming, but you have to have that scrappiness, and, you know, there's always work to be done, just waking up and working hard. And, you know, I've always had that drive, and I'm a super passionate person, and I have to be doing, like, if I'm not working a job I'm not passionate about, it's really, I can still do it, but it's like, it's hard for me. I'm a very passionate person. So this is really where my passion lies. And even when I was working other jobs doing it, or going through school and doing it, it was like, man, I wish I had more time for Doorborn, because it's just like, you have that vision, you want to see it through. And at the end of the day, like, I'm still that outdoorsman from Door County who, like, I want to wear a brand that represents what I'm about. So yeah, I think it's just, you know, part of it's genetic, part of it's just like having that drive. And I'm probably a little too like hyper focused on things, where it's, if I start something, I have to finish it. So maybe that's what's going on here too.
You know, there's a lot of conversation there. I can empathize with that, and I certainly know what you mean. And not even through the lens of like, do I keep going with this or do I not? Even through the lens of like, how much time do I devote to this thing? Because when you get that, when you are passionate about something and when you drive it, it's almost this like, it's this hole in you that you're, you're
sure.
like trying to fill.
Yeah.
And I haven't found out how to navigate that well yet. I don't know about you.
No, I wouldn't say I have either. But I've a very supportive fiance, and she's an entrepreneur too. And she kind of went through that, you know, the first year of, oh my gosh, like, I depleted my savings. I've invested in doing this. I used to be making steady money. You know, I could be, like, for her, it was like I could be babysitting more and bringing more money, but then I'd have less time for my business. And, you know, she was able to put in the time. She and I are both really big into our faith, and really like prayed about it, meditated about it, manifested where she wanted to be, and she saw it through to the other side. And having her support, and her just being like, you know, if you really believe in this, if you can see where the vision is, and, you know, keep going. You know, like I said, it hasn't been a full year yet of doing it full time. Early June will be a full year. So I just got to keep going. And, you know, it's hard because Door County is, like, most of my sales are in person at events like farmers markets or bigger events up there. And when I'm in my element there, like, I have the home court advantage, obviously, and I can tell the story, like, people love it, and people like the gear, and people like the clothing, and they come back, and it's really easy when I'm doing it then. It's just that, like, November through, you know, right about now time where the only way to reach people is through social media, through online. And that's a lot harder, but it's not that it can't be done. It's just figuring out how to best do it. So it's a challenge. But yeah, it's cool to be face to face with people, talking to them. It's a lot easier to grow a brand, but also just like feel good about what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just like being around the right people. I think is probably the answer to that. Like, for me, it's being around my fiance, being around different friends who are in business and guys like you are, you're just grinding. You have a goal in mind and you have passion about it and you're going for it. So
yeah, absolutely. I think so too, because there's no off switch for the effort. It's just going to keep coming out of you somehow, and it's going to go somewhere. So
sure.
At least that's where I land too, is like trying to maximize that, whatever that effort brings out. And it's not always right. It's not always, this audio thing we've got going on. It was awesome to buy this new board. At the same time, I'm having a ton of trouble with it. So it's like I haven't had time to like troubleshoot all this stuff. But at the same time, that's what my effort allowed right there. That's where it was pointed at that time. And that's like, figure it out.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And just that endless laundry list of like things to do. And you just have to keep prioritizing, like, what is the top? Like, what do I need to do first, second, third? Because I can't do all 20 things today or maybe this week. So that's obviously a challenge, but it's life too. But also I wanted to shout out to Clear Bliss with a K, K-L-E-A-R. That's my fiance's business. So if you're looking for a good facial, hydrofacial in Green Bay to be your area, check her out for sure.
Good stuff, dude. Yeah. We can make a short out of that.
There we go.
I'll get it to you. That's awesome. What do you say to those people that come up to your booth in Door County? That's a tough gig, man. You get 30 seconds. You got to try to captivate somebody. What do you tell them?
Well, what I try to do first is like you want to connect with a person on an individual level. Yeah. So if someone walks by me, I'm looking at like, what are they wearing? Is it a guy wearing like a hat with a trout on it, or is it someone wearing Packer stuff or Bear stuff? And that's kind of gonna give me a feel of who they are, what they're interested in, where they've been. Maybe the guy's wearing a Zion National Park shirt, and I can be like, hey, my uncle, he's got a place by Zion. I've been there 4 or 5 times. Like, it's awesome. Did you check out, this hike? Did you go to Angel's Landing, or did you do the subway? And then you can kind of get the ball rolling. If you come at people immediately like, hey, I'm a local person, like, buy my stuff, like, they're not going to want to hear that. It's more about connecting with them, trying to build some sort of a relationship with them, even if it's just, you showing them you care about them and you want to hear about their opinion on something. So that's usually what I go, like the route I go, and then I just relate the brand to it. So maybe the guy will just keep rolling with the Zion National Park shirt guy. Then I'll say, like, I'm a huge outdoorsman. I love it, from the area. And, if you'd like to be out and if you like to be underneath the sun a lot, you should check out one of our sun shirts. They're all UPF 50 plus sun protection, moisture wicking, quick drying. They have dye sublimation prints on them, so it's not going to like get hot or tacky on your back. It's not going to wash or fade out. So it's just a lot more natural. It's like, oh, you already like to be outside. I have a product that is great for people who love to be outside. So just kind of works hand in hand, instead of like, let me just grab you and pull you in, or, here's a huge discount that whatever. I think it's just more authentic, like, hey.
Oh, absolutely. And it connects it to what you're trying to do, man. It connects it to what you're trying to build. Yeah. Well, right before we started, you mentioned social media, and that's going to come up a lot today. But I said you were crushing it, and you were like, I don't know about that, but I'm trying. I don't know. I think you're doing great, man. The one sticks out in my head. It was really good that you did. You were in like the woods, and it was like just the camera on you, and you're like, you found it. And it was like, it really piqued my interest. And I'm sure it did a lot of people, like, you found what? And then you did a good job of like, oh yeah, it was right over here. And like, you walked through the woods, and then it ended up being, I think it was a shirt, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But outside of what the actual product was at the end, that concept, dude, is really, like you mentioned how hard social media is. That's just what you need to do, is that you need to captivate and catch attention like you are at that table. And I completely agree. If you can do something that's creative like that catches attention, or like shows somebody in that environment, shows somebody you're actually paying attention, because the vast majority of people aren't in life, right? Yeah. And then you can connect it to that mission. I don't know. I think that's a continual success recipe for success. So, I don't know, just one of many examples that I think you're doing pretty solid on social media.
No, I appreciate it. It's a fight worth having. It's just, it takes time, like anything else we were talking about earlier. Like all these things, it takes time to learn how to do it, and you become more efficient, and you start to surround yourself with people who are finding success in it, and all of that helps a ton. But yeah, it's definitely worth doing, because that's the online farmers market where you can meet people all the time. It's just connecting with them. So. Yeah.
So thinking of connecting and how you conversate, and just kind of getting to know you a little bit, just kind of how you operate. I want to switch the lens a little bit and talk about, wanting to be a teacher and then doing it and being like, maybe this isn't it. And that's a whole part of your story that I want to get into today with playing football and the concussion and all of that stuff. But like when you think about, I'm assuming, and this is a leap for me, but I'm assuming that when you thought about being a teacher, you wanted to make that connection just in that way. You wanted to connect with the, students and use those same skills or that same concept, because it seems pretty innate to you. It doesn't seem like you're trying. It just seems like it comes out. And then, like when you got to the field, and maybe this is putting a cart before the horse. Maybe we should have started a little bit early, but I'm already almost done with the question.
Rolling.
What did you find in the profession that you said, yeah, this is what I'm here for? And then what did you find in it that had you look other directions?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll rewind it a little bit. I'll start with like why I was interested in teaching to begin with.
Yeah.
Obviously, not obviously, obvious to me, but both my parents were teachers growing up. So I was kind of like around, their friends were teachers too. And just like, you were just around it and you understood it. And, but that wasn't the main driver for me. I had two really good tech ed teachers in high school. Mr. Paul and Mr. Wilson were just awesome guys and really let you do like whatever you wanted to do. They weren't going to say like, no, you can't work on that project. It was just like, you can think of something big and crazy and whatever you think you can pull off, but like you're going to have to do it, or, put the money up front to buy the materials and put in the time to get it done. And through being in their classes and like taking on bigger projects, like I built a laminated recurve bow. I built cool. a really big ice shanty with a wood stove that I built inside of it too. And I did a few different like big projects, and it was the first time in school where I felt like wow, like I'm really good at something. Like, I'm not just the guy who plays sports and messes around and whatever else. And I really enjoyed that feeling, and I wanted to be able to like give that feeling to other people too, where I didn't think necessarily like I'm going to be a welder the rest of my life or a carpenter, but I knew that no matter what, like I could always do that if I needed to or if I wanted to. Like I had these skills that no one can ever take away from me. So it's super empowering that, you can teach someone how to do something that they can support themselves with, or at least like, give back to society, make some money and have some pride in their work. So I wanted to, help people by doing that as well. I went to UW-Stout for college. I played football there, met a lot of great people, had a ton of good friends, did a good amount of fly fishing and bow hunting around there too. But my career with playing football was kind of like COVID happened right in the middle of it, which was unfortunate. And then right when I was getting into my stride of like really being able to play a lot, being a big contributor to the team and everything else, I got a bad concussion during spring ball of COVID, which spring ball during COVID was like practice all year long. And right before finals week, I got a bad concussion from a teammate, which was super unfortunate. And then that following season, about 3-4 games in, I had another concussion that where it was like, I didn't know the plays anymore. I wasn't going to class. My right eye wasn't tracking or focusing. So and it was one of those, like when you get a concussion, no one can see it, which it's not like your leg's broken and everyone's like, oh my gosh, but you look completely normal to everyone else. But in the inside, you're like, man, I can't remember my roommate's name. Like, I don't know if I've eaten today or not. Like I said, my eye wasn't tracking or focusing, so I couldn't see that well out of one of my eyes. And it's also scary because you're like, am I going to be fully functional? Like, I know I'm not at 100% right now. Am I going to come back all the way? So it's a really scary, like, thing to happen. But finally, I told my coaches, I'm like, look, like, I know I haven't been playing well, but, like, this is why. Like, I don't know. Like, I should not be playing. This happened, but I didn't say anything. And went to physical therapy for, like, 2 or 3 months, and it got it all figured out. And, slowly but surely, it took about 9 months before I could work out hard without getting headaches. But got through that and learned a ton, and it was a good experience overall, just to like choose, like, I want to make money. I want to do everything in my life. Like my brain's more important to me than my passion of playing football. And even football, like I love being on a team and I love having teammates, but like I don't do fantasy football. Like if there's a football game on, I'll watch it, but I don't watch every game. Like I don't really care, but I love my teammates. Like I would, very passionate about playing a sport, but not necessarily like sports in general. I'm more of an outdoorsman. But that was a big part of my life for years I've always played sports.
And you could disconnect it from your identity that you're saying, right? Like it wasn't so ingrained in you that like you could step away.
Yeah, like I said earlier, just about being a passionate person. I think it's more like, it's less that I love the X and O's of football and play calling and all that. Like, I really don't care about that at all. It's more of like, I'm so passionate about like helping my teammates try to win and like playing the best I can and being in the best shape as I can. And that's where the passion lied for me, and less about football in general. But yeah, so after that, that door closed. I had a year left of school. I did an R&D internship actually here in De Pere by Belmark, and that was a great company, and that kind of helped. That was the first time, because when you go to school to be a teacher, like at least when I went, I wasn't in the classroom like at all until the very end. And so my first like work experience out of college was at Belmark, which is a super polished like packaging company. And I was very impressed by everything I saw there. I was in the engineering department, and yeah, just people who are working really hard, like very diligent about their work, good community. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, thank you so much for the experience. I still have a semester left of school and I need to student teach. Like, I don't know if I want to come back here or not, but I want to see what teaching's about too. So after that experience, I finished up at school, didn't play football my last semester. But I was able to bow hunt and fly fish plenty, and all my friends were around, so that was great. And then I student taught for Tech Ed back in Door County, and that experience was, it was both like rewarding and eye-opening. Like, there were great aspects of it, and there were aspects that I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But it really opened my eyes to education. Biggest takeaways from that were probably just that, I really enjoy connecting with kids and, helping them out. But I also saw the other side of how I was in a department that was completely neglected for probably like 10 years, and just doing the dirty work. Like, there was a dust collector that had not been like cleaned out or serviced for years and years and years. And I opened up the doors on that thing, and these filters in it were filled with like coarse sawdust. And we had those big, like, I don't even know, 60, 80 gallon like plastic barrels, and I moved 13 of those full of sawdust out of there. And it took like
13?
Yeah. I mean, we had to shut down the wood shop for like 2-3 days. And it was one of those, like, how could this have happened? And I'm not pointing fingers. It's not anyone's fault. They had a lot of turnover in that department.
Yep.
And it just like one of those, like, you don't see it, you don't know it's happening. It all piles up literally. But to me, it was like, this is important. Like, obviously I went to school for this. Like, we can benefit, like, definitely there can be a huge benefit on kids who are in these classes. Like, I can't even open the shop. I'm trying to fix equipment all the time. And I wanted to be in Door County, but it was also like, I'd spent all winter and spring there. I hadn't met my now fiance yet. And it was kind of like, man, there's no girls here. There's like, there's not much to do. Like, I'm trying to build this department, but at the same time, like, I need to have a life too. I want to have a different, maybe see and do some other things. So after that, I took the job. My student teaching was done there. I took the job at Kohler, and I taught Tech Ed there for a year. And they had just passed a multi-million-dollar referendum to build a brand new Tech Ed room. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like, I was at a place that was trying to like reinvent their stuff, but they didn't have the money yet. They didn't, like, maybe it wasn't going to work out yet. And I was like, it is what it is, but I'm going to go to Kohler where, like, they just put all this money through. They just built a brand new department. Like, this is going to be great. I can help, like, create a really great department here, and it's a great community. Money is not really a big issue in that school district either, so that opens a lot of doors too. But when I got there, it was just a nightmare. The referendum that was supposed to be done before school started didn't, like, my room was just on the back burner and just kept pushing back further and further and further, and the parking lot became the priority over getting my department done, and then getting the football field done became the priority. And all said and done, like, I had a full course load, 7th graders, 8th graders, high school, like a engineering course. I had woods and metals, and I didn't have electricity in my room, like, in the shop until late October. So it's like, and I'm a first year teacher, so it's like you're trying to do everything you can, but I don't even have a place to do it. And then you also feel like, is my department not important at all? If it's, if if the football field is more important to get that done in time for homecoming, which didn't even end up getting done in time, but like super frustrating. And it was also one of those, like I've said a couple times already, like I'm a very passionate person. It was hard for me to like leave work at work and then go back, and the room had been stripped, like the previous room had been stripped. All the equipment was taken outside in these big like shipping containers and then brought back in. And the room got smaller from the previous one. So it was like, decide what equipment you want to keep, what you want to get rid of. But we don't have electricity and you've never used any of this equipment. And, you probably won't be able to buy a lot of it back. Yeah. And then when you do get electricity, it's trying to get these different pieces of equipment that have been moved 3, 4, 5 times, have broken parts or maybe they never ran well, and like trying to get them to work. I had an overhead sander that I was like, reading the manual, calling the manufacturer, like replacing air hoses, like replacing everything on it and getting it to work. And I mean, that alone, I probably spent 10, 15 hours in getting that thing to work, like outside of building curriculum, because there was no existing curriculum. And it just wore me out. And it was tough because at the same time, like I have this business I've been building for 5 years. I'm falling more in love with my now fiance who lives in Green Bay, De Pere. And it's like, man, my heart's kind of in like Green Bay. My passion's indoor county, my business. And I'm down here, like basically alone. Like I'm not getting any help, and I'm trying to like build this thing. And it was just so frustrating. And I felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't going to get significantly better. And, I couldn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel there. And I was like, it's tough, but like I can't give another year or 5 years to this, because I have other things in my life that are more important to me. So
yeah. And I asked that for a reason, man, because I think that's a really important thing to share. And I'm sure, getting to know about you a little bit, it feels like you're digressing at moments, and you're very positive just in general. But I think that's so important, man, because we're in a place that like, it's a conversation a lot of people have overheard about how, like we can't find enough teachers. Like there is this exodus of people that do what you did. They're young educators that start and then end up leaving and doing something else. One of my neighbors that lives close to my house is the same way. She graduated as an elementary educator. She worked for a couple of years, and now she's no longer a teacher. And I see it as a pattern, and it's a problem, or it's a pattern that I'm uncomfortable with.
Yeah. No, it's sad. It's also really hard to be a new teacher coming in. And I'd even say like it's hard to be a new tech ed teacher coming in, because there's such a low supply of people with a tech ed degree. And yeah, like in Wisconsin, you don't need any degree to get hired as a tech ed teacher. But obviously as a school district, like you're answering to the school board and parents. And if anything goes wrong, and then they're like, oh, this person like doesn't even have a tech ed degree. And then, Jimmy cut his hand off. Like what's going on here?
There's a lot of dangers.
They would like to hire someone, but with that, and with there not being, what is it called again? I lost the teachers union. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like there's no teachers union anymore either. Mm-hmm. So it's like when you come in, and we were taught in school, like, hey, come in, negotiate. Like you have a tech ed degree. There's not many teaching jobs. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, you have a tech ed degree. There's a ton of jobs. There's not many people with that degree. Like you can negotiate, because there aren't unions anymore. Like you can negotiate your salary. But at the same time, like, then your earnings are public, and your colleagues who may have been there longer than you, like it kind of creates this friction. But at the same time, like if you're making less, but you were looking for a house, or maybe you were able to purchase a home, or you have a mortgage locked in, like I had a lot of colleagues who their mortgage was like $300-400 less than my monthly rent for a little nothing apartment. And it's just like, you just live in a different world at the same time. It's very strange. Like the cost of living, especially like starting out right now, is crazy. And, everyone wants to own a home, but it just seems like, wow, like, I don't know, 70 grand, 60 grand. That seems like a lot of money in 2018 when I was a senior in high school. Yeah. And 5 years later, 6 years later, it seems like you're going to need to do a side gig or a side hustle, or, I feel like 100, 110 grand is the new 70 of 5-6 years ago. And that's just kind of the landscape of where we're at. And that adds into, like, most schools have a hard time paying anyone, like, even up to that. I mean, a lot of schools are starting people at like $46,000-$50,000, and you're struggling to like pay rent and pay for your car, and you don't even have anything left over at that rate. So yeah, I think it's super tough to attract people to want to do that and then retain them. But I couldn't spend the rest of my, young, like the beginning of my career, just sitting in the teacher's lounge,
Waiting
like
for
complaining
comfort.
about it every day. Like I like to get stuff done. I like to work on stuff. And if I can't fix it, like, eventually you got to move on. It was one of those, like, there's nothing else I can do. I got to move on, because I'm not going to sit around and complain about it all day.
Yeah. And that was something I had to get out. I had to make sure today, because I that's so important, man, that people see, especially like, I mean, being a teacher in a little bit different way. I think there's a lot of pressures that K-12 in specifically faces that I'm not completely aware of, that I think is important to get out there, because like, it's clear in talking with you a little while that you are passionate about what you do and really invested in the things, and you would have been an awesome teacher for a long time, man. And I think it's just important to have that story and bring it to life for ears that can hear it and say, dang, like Rex is a prime example where that could have been a lifelong educator in Wisconsin that impacted a lot of our children in a positive way. And you're going to go on to do other great things. I have no doubt about it. You're going to do a bunch of awesome stuff. And that's great. And I love it. And it's not going to be impacting somebody else's students positively or somebody else's kids positively, man. And if that snowball keeps going down that hill in the wrong way, like, we got to shine a light on this, dude, because I have a 3.5-year-old that I'm really invested in. And if we don't invest in our kids, what do we what do we have? It's one thing to be of a certain generation when your kids are grown and you've got a big old house and everything's cool, and you want to buy you want that extra, whatever, $10,000 to buy a new car or to go towards your new car, because that's not getting you one. But like, it's important to have those stories come out, and there's not a medium where they do effectively. I know so many teachers, man, K-12 teachers that left, and they never felt heard, and afterwards they were just so happy to cut the cord that they don't care if they're heard now or not. They're ready to move on to the next thing and find where their passions go. Yeah. And I love it, and I'm excited to spend the rest of the show talking about your passions. But there's something there, dude, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. No, it is sad. It's upsetting. I mean, even the two teachers I talked about earlier that inspired me to go into it, like, both of them left that school. One left education altogether after putting in 20 plus years. He just couldn't do it anymore. And when I left, like, I had long phone calls with him and just being like, how do you feel since you left? And he was like, to be honest, like, I can sleep at night now, and like, I can leave work at work. And it used to be all consuming, because he was a very passionate person too, and just felt like he was the only one who cared about not only his department, but also like health and safety, like his own health and safety and the kids' health and safety. That it's just a number on a sheet to someone else. And, it's tough. I think we can't solve all the problems in education on this podcast, but I think the big issue in like the education system too is like, there needs to be checks and balances, and that's great, but a lot of times a lot of the decision making is being made by people who don't necessarily understand like the impact of those decisions. Where if you've never taken a woods course or a metals course in your life, and you have no manufacturing experience, and you've never welded, like, but you're responsible for making the decision, like, what type of air exhaust system do we want to have? Like, what type of dust collector do we want to have? Doesn't matter if the dust collector is inside the classroom or if it's outside the classroom, so it blows all those particulates like out into the outside air and not trapped inside the room. Like, to someone who doesn't know, like, they don't know. But to someone who like lives and breathes that sort of stuff, literally, like, that's a huge decision to make with a lot of weight behind it. And it's sad that it just shakes out poorly sometimes. And I think it does again and again, where one decision made by one person who was poorly informed or just ignorant to it, and nothing against them, but they just didn't know any better, could have a downstream effect of, people quitting, departments closing, like loss of enrollment, all of that for years and years. So
Yeah.
how do you prevent that? I don't know. I mean,
It's a bigger question than for us.
Yeah.
But, a lot of it, this morning we just got done talking with Tom. A lot of it is that. A lot of it is organizing from the bottom up and making sure those individual contributors, the teachers that are making sure that they are involved and heard. And because often that's the story, man, whether it's you with tech ed or my neighbor with, doing things at 8:00 at night on a Tuesday when she taught all day. The stories are all the same. It's always that, you're a cog in the wheel and you weren't heard or supported. And that's not just K-12 public education. That floats off into the private sector where I worked as a career advisor for a while, and these companies would come to me and say, like, we just can't find people. We can't find people. We need your graduates. And then I would see something from like the interview process that they did or talk to some people that work there. And like, it's pretty easy to identify, relatively quickly why you're not finding people and other ones are. Yeah. And I don't know what that chasm is. I don't know what it is in K-12, but I just wanted to make sure your story was heard because there's a lot of not only validity in it, but there's a lot of use in it if it does. Like if it lands on the ears that say, okay, we're going to change it. Because conversely, as we kind of wrap up this part of the conversation, I also have some friends and actually administrators in different organizations or different districts throughout the state that operate really well, and their teachers are super happy and they're compensated fairly. Because even without the bargaining, the collective bargaining, like there's still districts that pay their teachers really well and still make sure that they're heard, and those districts are thriving.
Yeah.
And I wish that there was more kind of like flow of information from those districts to the ones that aren't, because even in the ones that aren't, like when you talk to the people on an individual, like for the most part, almost all the teachers, like people are teachers for a reason. Like anybody that gets an education in that and wants to be a teacher, like I have full faith that they're there to do good. Administrators, for the most part, I think that there's some that are milking it, just like in any industry. There's some that don't hear, they're whatever, blah, blah, blah. But that free flow of information combined with the value of having your stories like yours heard, I think can start to create that positive change that Tom, the community gathering that we were talking about, can build that to what we need to be. Because I'm supremely confident that as my son grows and he graduates and does things, like I think I'll still feel the same importance towards education in 20 years that somebody else is going to have kids and they're going to have to learn and stuff.
It's an uncomfortable conversation to have because like I don't want to put down these districts I've been at or like the departments.
Yeah, man.
But at the same time, like, I think that there's people are curious as to like, why aren't there, why did this person leave, or how come my kid can't take woods anymore? It's just a different conversation. So,
and you know what it is? That's a great way to end it, dude. That's a great way to end this part, because the person saying my kid can't take woods anymore, they've got a million other things going on in life, man. Like they're not investing all of that every day, and that's not top of mind. But another conversation they have is we just can't find these tradespeople. We can't find people to have these jobs. We can't find welders. We can't find this. We can't find that. And where do you think that interest started? like going back to the start of your story, where does it start? It starts in the classroom with a trades teacher who's passionate about what they do, that can introduce a kid to woodworking or metalworking. Because like when I think about my path, it was completely opposite of that. My dad is a trades type guy. He has always been that way. He fixes things, like works with his hands, manual stuff, and that's what I was exposed to as a kid. And like I like doing a lot of that stuff, but it was never my direction. I wasn't going to be a welder. I wasn't going to, like, that's not what I enjoy. That's not what I find passion in. And given all the way to how K-12 served me, like the first thing I did was going to be a mechanical engineer, and that was a terrible choice for me. It was a bad thing. And I hadn't been exposed at that time. I didn't take any business classes, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't take anything that would have shown that light upon and been like, dang, this is what makes me like want to wake up in the morning, and this is what does it for me. So it's almost like the exact flip side of the coin, but the same thing, where I went to be this thing that I had no idea what it was because I was good at math and science. And then luckily I ended up finding marketing in the business realm, which is what I am passionate about. And if we can move that, the further you can move that forward, that identification, because it doesn't come on anybody's prescribed timeline. Like, you might be 17, you might be 27, you might be 70 listening to this and still not know what gives you true satisfaction. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But all we can do is open the doors and see if people want to walk through them. And with people like you who like are very clear, would have been a great educator for a long time, are comfortable like saying goodbye, and a lot of them are, just think about what's next. What's past that conversation of, why can't my kid take woods anymore? Like, what's the greater impact of what's happening?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing, man. I know it feels like, I know you don't want to cast shade, and I don't think we did, but at the same time, it's a very real and relevant.
No, it's an important conversation. I think it's on a lot of people's minds. But the rebuttal also would just be, I think, education and what it looks like is going to change a lot. And, I might not be in the classroom, but I can still teach a lot of people a lot of different things using different mediums from social media. And like, even with the brand, I just wrote an article on, how to catch steelhead. Like, here are 5 ways to catch them, because I spent years trying to catch a steelhead on a fly rod and like wasn't successful. And I can watch YouTube videos of guys in Pennsylvania or Oregon or wherever else catching them. But it's like, no, I want to know how to do it in Wisconsin, like with a fly rod, not just snagging them or throwing like a huge sack and a bobber right in front of their face. Like, I want to know how to do it with a fly rod, and kind of like creating that. So I can teach people in different ways. And I think people are going to more and more look to learn in different ways. So
I was invested in that journey, dude. That's a great next pivot. I was invested in that journey because you made a couple posts about like going steelhead fishing and like this search for one. Yep. I was pumped when you finally got one.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So let's talk about fly fishing a little bit, because you've been doing fly fishing for a while, right?
I'd say about 5 or 6 years. But I learned how as a kid, just on the dock of my uncle. I was probably like 7. So I knew how to cast. And I think that helped a ton in like, when I wanted to get into it, I already knew how to cast, which a lot of people, like, that's the biggest, barrier of entry, is they struggle with being able to cast and cast accurately. But yeah, I'd say about 5 years ago, my buddy and I, Blaze, we doubled down on it, and we're like, we want to get good at this. Like, this looks really cool.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So I'm just delving into the territory. I've been a spin fisherman my whole life. I fished a lot of different species. For a long time, bass was my go-to. I had a little 14-foot V-bottom that I would just take into the wildest places. That was just like it was a piece, but it was my piece, and we would go half the time the engine wouldn't start and it'd be the trolling motor or whatever. But like, bass was the thing I chased for a long time. Got a lot of value out of it and a lot of fun. And then I got rid of that boat, never bought another one. And I've had buddies trying to get me into fly fishing for a long time, and I never did. Their selling point was always to me that it was the bow hunting of hunting. And
bow hunting of fishing.
The bow hunting of fishing. Yeah, that's what I meant. And it always kind of piqued my interest, but I lived in a place at that time where my 2 friends that do it a lot, I had really close access to this awesome smallie lake that I could go and just slam 20-inch smallies all day long. And it's like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Doing this for now. And then when we ended up moving, sold the boat. And my first foray into this was last year, or 2 years ago now, actually. I started spin fishing for trout in Wisconsin creeks. And that started to like light the fire of like, okay, I see why people do this. Like, pulling, an 18-inch brown out of a creek that's as wide as this table is really fun to me. That was really cool. So I'm starting to think, okay, I get why people do it. And then now I'm to the point where I think I have that understood. And now I'm ready to take the leap to fly fishing. And I just bought a fly rod last week. I'm pretty pumped up about it. But that's why I was invested in your journey too, because I was seeing it. But yeah, is that an accurate depiction for you? Is that what you think about it? Is it?
I just think, you know, there's so many different variables going into it, and like sensory wise, there's so much going on that you have to be like, and you have to be locked in, you have to be focused, but there's so much beauty around you. And like, I'll just focus in on like, I find a hole that I want to cast to, because I think there might be a trout there. And it's like, you're just trying to get the perfect cast, and you get the cast to land, and you're already feeling like, oh yeah, like I just hit the perfect cast. I put it right where I needed to. Like, you don't even care whether or not a trout jumps out and grabs your fly or not. And then it's almost like, sometimes if you're not catching much, maybe it's just me, but like you just get so into the rhythm of casting and like delivering your cast where it needs to go and looking for holes and finding cool stuff around the creek, and just like you're so into it, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like a fish jumps out and grabs you, or you feel the tension on your line, and you're like, it's almost like sucks you back in. You're like, oh, like that's why I'm here, you know. It's super rewarding. But yeah, you can get totally immersed into it, a lot like bow hunting in that regard, where it's like you have to be completely into it. And if you are able to get into it like that, like it's so rewarding, you know. It's such an intimate experience. And yeah, it's hard to, if you don't know, like if you're listening to this, you don't fly fish or you don't bow hunt, you're like, what are they talking about? But if you're someone who does, like, yeah, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. You're like so engaged. It's just so much fun, so rewarding.
That's the part I'm looking forward to it about. I've been telling this story a lot recently about just passions. It comes up in conversation a lot with me because I very quickly, even with new people, I got to spend like over an hour with a dude from Istanbul the other day. He's a doctor in town. I went to this cool event, and like very quickly we got past, what do you think of Green Bay, to like, what's your passion? What makes you live? And that's what it is for fly fishing for me. I'm excited to feel that, because that's when I feel alive, is when I'm immersed in the outdoors. Mm-hmm. That's when I feel like I'm doing what I'm truly meant to do as a human. Like, I love all the other stuff. It gives me satisfaction, fulfillment. But outside of like being a dad or a husband, being in the outdoors is what makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to swing the fly rod and feel that, because spin fishing you do in a certain way, but it's still mechanical of sorts. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm going to get there. And I think a good equivalent for that for me is I love bow hunting from the ground. Mm-hmm. I think bow hunting from the ground is the funnest thing. And I've been bow hunting now for, 25 years or whatever it is. And I still haven't taken a deer from the ground. I could have. Like, I'm pretty selective about the deer I harvest. So like, yep. I've had a lot of these close encounters that like, I don't even care if I harvest that deer. I was on some public land last year, and a really good example of this is I was on some public land, and it was this place that I really had to truck back into. It was a long ways. It was probably like, I don't know, 4 miles, something like that. Like, it was an entire morning just to get there to hunt, the afternoon. And I found this really cool spot that where obviously I'd never been there, and I laid on my backpack, and I was laying on my back on the ground. And this little, like, it was either a 3 or 5 pointer. I can't remember if it had brow tines, but like walked up. And it was clearly somewhere where people didn't go very much. He wasn't really thinking about me. And there was a scrape in front of me to the left, and he walked up to that scrape. And then all of a sudden, like, he realized like something was amiss a little bit, but he didn't know what it was. I had a really good wind. That's what I was hoping for to happen. I was hoping it was going to be a bigger buck, but turns out it was him. And he looked, and he was trying to figure out what was going on. And there's not a whole lot of bow hunters laying on the ground out in the woods, so I don't think I had a lot of favor in my thing. And he walked towards me a little bit, and he ended up coming up and sniffed my crossbow next to me, laying on the ground. And I could have, like, tickled his nose. Like, my hand was right there, and I could have tickled his nose. And I'm just being dead still. And I just remember thinking in that moment, like, that's invigorating. That's truly being alive and, like, integrating yourself into the environment. And then I relished it for a little while, and then I tickled my hands a little bit, and he realized what I was and took off. But that thing, I think, is what draws me to fly fishing. Is that I don't know yet because I haven't done it, but is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. And I'd say too, like, everyone starts spin fishing, or they like to spin fish. Like, that's awesome. But to me, it's almost like the fish is, it's more of a reaction bite, which, like, they see something flashing and they just want to, like, bite it. It's more of like if you hit someone's knee and they kick their foot, it's like, oh, I made them kick. Whereas like when you're fly fishing, like you're looking to see like what exactly are they eating right now, and like what fly that I tied or I bought like looks exactly like whatever they're eating, and then where are they and how can I get this right in front of them. And then when that fish bites, it's not like, oh, I saw something shiny, I'm just gonna knee-jerk reaction and go after it. Like they are completely committed. Like they think 100% that it like they're about to just eat a bug, you know, and then that's when you set the hook. So it's just, it would be like, yeah, a person actually like going up and kicking a ball versus like hitting their knee. Like you're completely tricking, I guess, but I don't think tricking is like the right terminology. It's just like you're being in the moment more. Like you're not taking away from the experience. You're more so like blending into the surroundings, if that makes sense.
Exactly what I was getting at, dude. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That's exactly what you're immersed in it. You're part of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to this disconnected way of it. That's wild, man. So I know virtually nothing about Steelhead. Tell me about that endeavor.
Steelhead, which I had some people arguing with me on my posts online, which is great.
Oh, what to even call it?
Yeah, because it just helps boost the post. So if you want to argue about it, I'll go back and forth just because it helps push the post. But apparently, if they don't come out of the ocean, they're not steelhead. But I told one of the people who I was arguing with, I was like, look, in Wisconsin, like the vernacular here, it's more about what's more fun to say and not about like what's actually grammatically correct.
Yeah, because what's grammatically correct in that scenario then, or what is actual? The
Lake
term?
Run Rainbow would be the argument. But
okay.
Steelhead's way more fun to say, so we're gonna stick with it. But yeah, the steelhead, they run from the Lake Michigan every year into the creeks in the springtime. And it's really like all of them, and just in general, if you're getting into fly fishing, like get a temperature gauge, because the water temperature like has everything to do with what you can expect, whether it's fish migrating to, are they going to be biting or not, as it all has to do with the water temperature. But when the creeks get to a certain temperature, usually triggered by like a warmer rain in early spring, they'll start running to spawn, and that's kind of like your window of a chance to get in and to catch some. But most guys are throwing like a bigger egg sack with a hook and a bobber and a weight and trying to get it in front of them. And I was like, man, I really want to catch one on the fly rod. But the hard thing with fly fishing is you need a little bit of room to cast, or you need better technique to cast, and you have to get it. Like the steelhead are not, I wouldn't say they're like crazy hungry when they're spawning. Like for me, my experience, to get them to bite, like you need to put it right in front of their face. So you need to have like an egg type pattern, like a pink, red, or like a sucker egg would be more of like a lime green. And you need to get that so that you can cast it out in front of them, and then it can come down and float right in front of their face, and they can have a clear shot to bite it. So you're approaching from behind them, the water's running towards you, the fish is out in front of you. You can't be moving your feet around too much or splashing or making noise or digging into the gravel because you could spook them. And then you need to deliver a cast where you have enough weight. Your indicator, which is like a bobber, but for fly fishing, is at the right depth for that hole. So every single hole you're adjusting that depending on water speed and the depth of the hole. And then you're getting it to land right in front of it. Even when you get it to land right in front of it, like the one I finally caught that I posted on Instagram, I'd probably delivered a similar cast like 15 times.
Through the same hole?
Same hole. And then finally it was like, all right, I'll bite that egg, and got it, landed it, and finally made it happen. But yeah, I could explain it to you in 30 seconds now, but it took me 3 years to figure that out. And then it's just the technique of like getting that cast delivered in the right spot, and being able to adjust your indicator. I think as an early on fly fisherman, it's not like fishing with a bobber and a worm where you're a kid and it's like, let's go about this far, and you cast it out, and you'd pull it in and adjust it in like 10 minutes if you don't catch anything. Fly fishing, it's like you might cast once just to see how far down it's going, but then you're constantly adjusting that indicator every single hole depending on where you need that bait to be in the water column, or how fast the water's moving, or where you think the fish are at, or where you see the fish at. So
how does that work then? Because oftentimes you're not casting right in the hole, right? You're going to float the hole.
Yep.
So then
it's like a timing. You need to know like all right, if I cast, this far, like obviously
I have till here till it sinks to the bottom.
Yep. And
Okay.
then you need, like, maybe if it's not sinking down quick enough and you don't want to adjust your indicator, you might add more weight to it, or you put on a fly that, the tungsten is heavier on it. So like a nymph with a tungsten head that's heavier, that you can get that down lower to the fish. But if you can't get the fly to the fish, it's hard to get them, especially when the water's cold. They like eating down lower better. They're not really going to hit up top off the surface as much. So it's just experience. The more you do it, the better you get. So
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have my first at least attempts coming up here at the end of the month. We do a yearly like trout fishing thing down in the Driftless.
Yep.
But it's always been spin fishing for me. So now I'm to the point where I can read a river. Like I know where they are and I know how to do it. And now it's just going to be this next learning curve of stuff like that, dude.
Yep.
Like stuff that I would never know because I'm dragging spinners
For sure.
through. And
I'd say too, like, don't be married to your setup. Like, you might pick out the perfect fly at the fly shop or tie one yourself, and you're like, this is the fly. Like, I'm gonna catch everything on it. If they don't like it, like, move on, because certain days, like a certain size, certain color, certain pattern, they're gonna love. And like the next day it could be completely different, or 3 hours later it could be completely different. So you can't be married to your setup, even if you watched 5 YouTube videos on it and tied it yourself. Like, the fish don't care.
yeah.
Which is a great life lesson too, in like business and everything else. Is just, it's easy, whether it's like me creating a new clothing item or like making a reel that I think is going to go viral that doesn't. It's like, you can't, just because you put in a ton of time and effort doesn't mean like it owes you anything to like finding success, and you need to be able to pivot and keep going forward. So.
Yeah, that's a good segue. Let's move on to the next thing. How do you come up with your designs?
Really, it's like a lot of them are nature based. So, I mean, you can't really tell now, but one of the graphics I'm wearing now, it's like a sunset graphic. It's like, you can find it online. It's like the sunset graphic. But it's based off a photo I took of the water in Door County. But just really incorporating like natural elements, kind of like landscape imagery. And then, going forward, I want to make it a little more ambiguous, where, you might see the graphic and be like, oh, I know exactly where that is. Like, it looks just like grandma's dock from, outside of Sister Bay or whatever. Whereas someone else in Minnesota or Michigan or maybe even Pennsylvania could be like, oh, that looks just like this other place. Whereas right now, my brand is pretty like exclusively Door County. I want to work towards just like incorporating graphics that, tell the story authentically, but, people from the region, different areas can all like relate to it. And really they're finding the same answer in it, or the same truth in it. So,
Or their truth. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like music. Like, the song probably was not written for you, but sometimes you're like, oh, like this is like exactly how I feel. Like, this is my experience, or like I can totally understand. So that's kind of the direction I want to go going forward. And even the designs now, I'd say they're there. It's just some of them literally say like Door County underneath, which, if you're familiar with the area or you're from the area, like, that's a home run. But if you're not, it alienates these people who like I have a ton in common with, and the brand has a ton in common with. So
Yeah.
I want to incorporate that into the brand more going forward.
Yeah. Well, a couple things out of that. One, I think that's it's super smart marketing wise, because you're one of the benefits is you're in a tourism hub
For
where
sure.
people come from a long ways away to go to Door County and check it out. So then they bring it back and it resonates with them. But secondly, funny thing, the boat I was talking about earlier, when you asked me what shirt I wanted yesterday, when I looked on your website,
Yep.
there's a scene, dude, that brought me back to the boat.
Yep.
It's that it's very cinematic. Like, if I remember right, there's a person even sitting with, it's a tiller on the back, and they're
Yep.
sitting in the back. Like, it's exactly
Yep.
the vibe, man. And it brought me back to sunsets in my boat, just slamming smallies
Yep.
and just having the most beautiful times, man. So yeah, that's what everybody's searching for. And even if you don't know it when you're buying a t-shirt, there's a reason people buy t-shirts when they go to events. To remember it. I just went to a music show the other night, and that's a classic thing, dude, especially for smaller artists, where like in this instance it was singer-songwriter stuff that I like songwriters, and dude pours his soul out for an hour and then goes to stand at a table and sell merch.
Yep.
And his story behind it, he crafted it really well. It was a piece of art that he had made. If I remember right, it was like he drew it in mud when he was doing something somewhere. and then ended up taking that, and that's on his t-shirts.
Yep.
And he had this awesome story weaved about it. And that's what you're trying to do, dude.
Yeah, for sure. And the shirt you're talking about, the design, like the Sherwood skeleton, and that's what it is. It's a little skeleton guy with a cowboy hat and a piece of straw, just full throttle on a little 14-foot aluminum boat ripping around. And, if you've ever been full throttle on a little boat like that, like, that feeling. And it's a great feeling. And, it might not be like mainstream. It might be cooler to have like a yacht or, a drift boat in the Rocky Mountains or whatever else. But like, that doesn't mean it's not cool. Like, and it deserves its own little spot. And yeah, I've had plenty of people like your same story be like, oh, it reminds me of my little boat I used to have. Or I had a couple who was like, man, we have to buy this because we thought it would be a good idea to take our own boat across to Washington Island, and like the water got awful and like we all thought we were gonna die. So they loved the skeleton graphic and just the imagery there. But yeah, it's just I want to package up those same sort of stories, and because there's so many people who have an appetite for it, but also like they want that. You want to wear stuff that you can relate to and really captures your experiences and what you're passionate about and what you love and where you're from. So
absolutely, man. Yeah, that was my running joke when I had my boat. I only had a 5-horse motor on the back, and I'd pin it and I said, "We're up on plane now, boys."
There you go. Yeah, it's more fun. You throw like a 30 horse on one of those, then you can 45 horse. You can really rip around and take some tight corners. I got my buddy because he's got a nicer boat for like skiing and wakeboarding. But one summer I was like, dude, I gotta pull you on the wakeboard behind my little boat, and we got him up on it. I made a little video about that on Instagram too, but yeah, just fun. It's like, it's funny, but it's also genuinely like fun to do.
Yeah. Do you still have a little boat you take out?
Yep. I bought another one from Craigslist last summer, so I got two now. So
that's what we all need. We need more headaches than the one boat.
Yeah, I don't have enough stuff to do, so like let me just dive back into the Tech Ed toolbox and fix up 2 boats and keep 2 trailers maintained. And
every spring when you take them out, there's like things that need to be worked on that weren't broken when you put it away.
Yep.
And now they're just broken.
Yeah.
It's a bittersweet day when your boat leaves. There's that running. What is that adage? It's something like the 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy it and the day they sell it. Like there is some bittersweetness at the end when you sell that thing away and you're just like, I remember selling my boat. And I was like, you're going to have a lot of fun, but you're going to have a lot of headaches too.
Well, that's what BOAT stands for. Bust out another 1,000.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So now you have 2. What's the difference between the new one? What's the second one bring the first one didn't?
Well, the original, the OG, is like a 1954 Crestliner aluminum boat that I got for installing some docks in the Kangaroo Lake. So it was just a tit for tat, like a little bit of labor for a free vessel. And then the motor for it, I got from similar line of work there in high school, or actually right after high school, and my buddies was graduating a couple years after me, and his dad was like, hey, I want to build a really cool tiki bar outside the house, like down by the water. Like, would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And he was like, look, I can pay you, or I have this old 30 horse, 2-stroke. I'm like, I'll take the motor all day. So built this tiki bar and got the motor in exchange, and married those 2 together, and that's how my boat came about. And then the other one, funny enough, like the boat that I got from Kangaroo Lake didn't have a trailer. So it was always like putting it on the back of a flatbed truck, or my grandma used to have a condo in Sturgeon Bay on the water. And I'm sure her neighbors just thought it was horrendous that my little boat was next to all these other slits with beautiful, $100,000 plus boats. But I was able to slip it in there. But yeah, I needed a trailer, so I found a trailer I found a whole boat on Craigslist for like $200, and like most of the trailers were $600, and I was like, well, I can't, justify that, so I might as well just buy the boat. So I bought another one last summer, and it's probably like a 1980s aluminum boat too, but nice, has really nice leather seats in it. So that one, it has really nice leather, like one leather seat. I might take out the second row behind it. It would be a good spearfishing boat. I really am big into like spearfishing perch. So a lot of room in the back where I could, have your snorkel and fins and spears and everything, and then go out.
I've had a couple conversations with people who do that, dude. It sounds like a blast.
I know I just hyped up fly fishing, but like, if you ask me in August what my favorite thing to do is outdoors, for sure, spearfishing. It's like complete, like you're literally immersed, like you're in the water. So like your hearing, your sensory is already lower. And then you just see it from, if you've been a fisherman your whole life, like you see water from the surface looking down. But when you're snorkeling and you're spearfishing, and it's like you see through it's hard to describe, but you just see like the growth down there through the algae and the weeds and the rock beds and everything else. You find these pockets where it's almost like what a field would be or a meadow would be in a bunch of woods. There's just these openings where you can find schools of fish that will come through. And the best spearfishing story I have is I just had found a school of perch, and usually perch, the smaller ones are going to be closer to the surface, and they all kind of keep together. And then a little bit behind them is going to be like the bigger perch, like kind of the jumbos. And I just saw a school in this little like opening in the weeds, and I was swimming down towards the bigger perch, and behind them is some thicker weeds. And this huge, I mean, I'm 6'5", like I'm a pretty big guy. And I've caught some big muskies, some big pike, so I know judgment wise like how big they are. But this pike came out, must have been 55 plus or 50. I mean, it was huge pike came out and just smoked one of the jumbo perch, right, like probably from me to you away, just smoked it and went right back into the weeds. And it was like, that was like, you would never see that anywhere else. Then like you have to be down there to see that sort of thing. That, and you can just be super efficient. Like if the limit's 15 perch, you can get the fins on, go down there. You know, it's super fun to explore and see. It's really hard to like aim and hit, but once you get good at it, it's almost like you can't miss. Like if you're dialed in one day, somehow it's like they're all headshots for whatever reason and you can't miss. Other days you can't hit anything. But if you're dialed in and, you know, you're finding fish and you're getting on them, you can choose which fish you want to shoot at. You can get your limit, and then like it's awesome. You're eating perch, and yeah, it's so much fun. Hard to describe. It's something that's like you got to try it out. And just like the cost of entry to get in, you can go to Walmart and get a snorkel for like $30-$40. You can get some cheap fins, like, and then you can get a spear around like $100. So it's not, as far as like outdoors sports go, like that's very low.
It's not fly fishing.
Barrier of entry. Yeah. And you can have so much fun doing it. So definitely like read the rules and regulations for what bodies of water and like how many you can take and everything, but so much fun,
man. Yeah, that's intriguing to me. I'm not like a strong swimmer, so it's not something that
but if you have fins on, like there's guys who are good at it and they go in like 30-40 feet of water and they hold their breath and they go down. Like most of the time I'm just like at the surface breathing through the snorkel, just looking down and just flapping my legs around, like propelling forward. And maybe the deepest I'll go is like 15 feet of water, but most of the time it's like 4 to like 8 feet of water where you don't really even have to dive down to shoot them most of the time.
See, it's actually the first part that I'm no good at. I can get from point A to point B pretty good, and I can go, but I can't figure out how people tread water. Like I don't get it. I kick my feet, I pull, and the faster I do things, the faster I sink.
Well, more perch for me.
Yeah, more perch for you, dude. Yeah, but I do want to call out you gave a little perch fishing tidbit in there that I think even a lot of seasoned perch fishermen don't know. Is that the big ones are always at the end of the school. Yeah. So like it seems every time when you're ice fishing, when a school of perch comes through, you'll be nailing them, you'll catch a monster, and then they're gone. It's because the monster was the last one.
Yep. They kind of, and like, you know, you might learn that through years of fishing them, but if you're spearfishing, like you see where these fish sit in the water column, you see how they interact in a school, you know, you see how they get hunted by pike, and you learn just like they all have different personalities. If there's a dogfish or a burbot, like they're intimidating fish. Like you wouldn't know that from the surface, but if you're down there, like a perch sees you, a bass sees you, and they might be interested for a second, then they swim away. If you see a dogfish, it looks at you like, I'm going to bite you if you get any closer to me, you know. And I've even had them where like I tap them on the head with the spear just to get them to swim away, and they're just like death staring.
Standing their ground.
Yeah, it's like, man, these guys are tough. But like you don't learn that stuff. Like you could over years of fishing, but like you learn it really quick when you're down there swimming around with them, like in their environment, and not really, if you're quiet enough and you're just taking your time, it's like fly fishing. You just totally blend in. You become part of it. So really cool experience.
Super interesting. You know many people that do that, or how'd you get into it?
You know what? When I got into it, I didn't know anyone. And then since doing it, like people are like, oh yeah, I've done that. Like it's so much fun. And it's like, oh, well, where were you when I was trying to learn about this? But yeah, I know people who do it for sure. but I don't think enough do. It's also one of those that like people look down on it, like the old man with the beer belly and the pack of cigarettes who's catching perch off, what the dead end road dock. Like they're going to hate it because it's like, oh, you're going to take all the perch, whatever else. But it's like, you have the same limit. It's not easy. Like I'm telling you, because I'm trying to sell it on you. Like it's not that easy to do. Like, to be honest, it took probably 3-4 times of going to like actually be able to get the perch I was aiming at and like to be more consistent with it and just learning all the ins and outs of it. Probably took, we didn't really start until like mid-August, and we went into October doing it where like we're coming out freezing cold, even wearing a wetsuit. But it took up until the end where like we could consistently be pretty good and then still have days where like you can't hit anything for whatever reason. You're just off. So it's not like shooting fish in a barrel. Like it's definitely, there's a sport to it for sure. And yeah, if you're efficient at it, it would be the same as if you're super efficient at, you have a great day on the ice catching perch, it would be the same as that. Not like I can shoot 50 of them. Like the bag limit doesn't change at all. It's just the method of which you harvest them. And I think it's important to talk about because it's something that I love doing. I think a lot of people would love doing. And if it gets people outdoors, like it's great, And if you don't talk about it, it's something that someone could easily vote on and eventually you can't do it anymore. So,
yeah. And I think, kind of contrary to that hypothetical person's point too, I think another consideration is like how many people are actually going to do it. Like, I don't think there's a lot of folks that are going to be chomping at the bit to do that.
Well, hopefully a lot more. I want to definitely promote it with the brand. And I think it's part of that, like, part of the reason too why I want to create the brand is because I want people to know like, hey, there are like so many opportunities here. Like you don't have to fly to California or fly or drive out to Colorado or Montana to have fun. Like we have so much fun to be had in our own state, in our own region, within the Great Lakes. And especially if you want to come to where I'm from in Door County, like don't even get me started. Like there's 300 plus miles of shoreline. There's a great fishery for anyone, whether you want to spearfish like me, go out for salmon, catch smallmouth and walleye or panfish. Like there's so much opportunity that if you're not inspiring people to go out and do it, if you're not creating the media for them to see on Instagram and YouTube and everything else, and you're not talking about it, eventually people aren't going to do it. And when people stop doing it, like you lose that funding, like you lose advocates for it. And ultimately it's the animals, it's the ecosystem that hurts, because if there's not money behind it to protect it, like it goes to the wayside. So I remember I had my business teacher in high school. Ironically, we did not get along very well at all, and she would always pick on me like about, oh, like you just love to kill the animals and do this and that. And I was just like, you know how much I spend every year on a patron license? Like this, and I will do every single year, probably the rest of my life. I'll always just buy a patron because I do everything and I love it. I'm like, how much do you give towards conservation every year? Like you love to give me crap. Like how much money do you give towards conservation every year? Do you give any? And I think that's the truth of it. It's like we're people who like to hunt and fish and be outdoors. Like we don't do it because we have an ego and we're stone cold killers and it's like, oh, we just want to whatever. It's like, we love this environment. We love being a part of the environment and being immersed in it. And people have been hunting and fishing like as long as people have been alive. Like the idea of not doing it is like very, very new. Like people have always done it. It's part of our DNA. And by doing it and doing it legally, like you're helping support these ecosystems so like they're healthy. And, we're the advocates for those different species and the environments in which they live. And we're the ones who find the beauty in it, and we're the ones who pay the bill. So I want to promote it as much as I can because I want it to be around. I don't want to see it go to the wayside, and it's so much fun. Like to me, I don't want to play video games. I don't really get into watching series of shows. Like in the spring, like I'm looking forward to waking up at 4 a.m. and going turkey hunting. Like I was looking forward to the Steelhead running. I can't wait to go spearfishing. I can't wait until the deer are in rut. And it's just like one after another. There's all these cool things happening outdoors that I get to look forward to perpetually because I live in this region. Like I live in Wisconsin, and that's awesome. Like we have all of this here, and it's kind of, it's easy to be like, oh, well, the hunting's way better in Montana because you can hit, elk or you can do whatever else. But man, we have so much opportunity here, especially if you can do multi-species, or not just hunting and fishing, but, maybe you're cross-country skiing in the winter, and in the spring you're getting into mountain biking or fat tire biking, and, in the summer you're doing whatever else you want to do. Like, there's so much to do outdoors where you can enjoy yourself, you can be active, you can stay in shape, and you can really have that time. And at the same time, a lot of those you're helping support those same ecosystems that you're enjoying. So it's a huge win-win.
Absolutely, man. Was that teacher, is she a vegetarian or a vegan?
No comment there. No, she was not. She definitely ate.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of, I think she enjoyed, she just enjoyed the banter, but like, I didn't. I was defensive about it,
As
You're also a kid in, high school, teenage boy who knows everything and is never wrong. So you got to stay in your territory. But I had to throw that back in her face, and I was like, get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some better conversations with people that are vegetarians or vegans about why they are and why they hold. And I can respect that. If you got that, that's your outlook. Cool.
For sure.
If you're gonna come at me with that business and then go home and have a steak or like chicken breast or whatever, like, come on now. Yeah. This isn't gonna go well for either of us.
No. And thankfully, for the first time really in America in like the last 20 years, I think the average person is really starting to look at their own diet and being like, oh, like this impacts everything in my life. Like, not just my, how much weight I carry around in my body, but mentally, like how I'm feeling, mental clarity, like my sleep, whether or not I'm snoring, like everything. And hopefully that trend keeps going where people are super curious and they're reading labels and they're doing their own research and, they're investing in their health. Like, that's one thing that I don't skimp on. It's like, I'll pay extra money for really good meat, really good produce. And like, I already love to be outdoors, but like, I definitely, like, if I'm catching a fish that's a healthy fish, that's the right size I'm looking for, like, and it's legal to harvest, like, I'm going to be harvesting it. Tonight, I'm literally eating the steelhead tonight, like the other 2 fillets I have. And, I just finished the rest of my turkey from last year, but it's like, that is really good meat. And I know that it was taken care of properly. Like, I process my own meat. I know that it was killed quickly and ethically and bled out. And like, you don't know any of those things. If you're buying it from the store, or even if like, if you're unable to process stuff yourself, like, you're going to have to go to whatever butcher shop too. But, you don't know what is all in the grind of the meat you're getting back, and whether someone else got shot at their deer and found it 2 days later and drove around town with it in the back for a day to show everyone. Or I'd like to know that the food that I'm eating is super healthy and good for me, and it's going to help fuel me. So. Yeah,
I can't believe that. Like, that stuff used to happen. That used to be pretty common, where like you would just get X amount of pounds and then you'd get X amount of pounds back. I don't know of any places like that anymore, but if there are, I don't know how people do it. Like,
I ground the deer I shot this year. I ground all the scrap meat myself with this little hand grinder. Yeah. This winter. Oh my gosh. It took me probably like 8 hours to do it. Yeah. But
you ended up with one arm bigger than the other end.
Yeah. I definitely will invest in a better grinder. But yeah, and a lot of those shops do a great job. It's just more of the like, they're significantly better than that meat that's processed at, the huge grocery stores. So if you know that they're already way better than the bigger ones, it just makes you think like, oh my gosh, like, what is some of this stuff that we're eating? Yeah, man. Or feeding the kids at public school.
Yeah. Rex, it was awesome chatting with you, man.
Yeah, you too.
I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck with the business. Thanks for the shirt.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, I think there's a great story to be told for Wisconsin, and you're doing a great job at really putting a spotlight on. There's a lot of great things going on here, a lot of cool people and good stories to be told. So keep it up.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.